So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 256th episode. In the last 255 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 5,000 school leaders on this very platform where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new is happening in the education space. तो नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 256वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 255 एपिसोड में हमने करीबन करीबन 5,000 से ज्यादा शिक्षाविदों से बातचीत की और उनसे जानने की कोशिश की कि वो शिक्षा को कैसे बदल रहे हैं और शिक्षा उन्हें कैसे बदल रही है. So today as well, in the next 30 to 40 minutes that you're here with us, we'll try to explore another interesting topic that is going to impact the education space across the globe. Before we start the conversation around, is digital de-escalation realistic? Did Sweden really ban edtech? What all happened? Let's see the genesis of all of this. Where did this conversation really come into effect from? A quick snip into what exactly happened. This
Good
is that
afternoon,
speech.
everyone. Lovely to see you all. Lovely to be here. I'm going to start with a slender anecdote, totally true, from about 4 weeks ago. It was early evening, and I was on a packed 19 bus in London, standing over a young man and a young woman. They were sitting beside each other, both gazing at their smartphones. Nothing unusual about this, of course. They were both attractive, smartly dressed, professional looking, around the same age. Willfully invading their privacy, I subtly angled myself to see what they were up to on their phones. They were each on dating apps, reading the profiles of men and women who presented as extremely similar to the two of them. Our bus, completely true, our bus reached Piccadilly Circus and both happened to alight at this stop. I watched the two of them as they walked away from each other, one towards Shaftesbury Avenue and the other towards St James's. I don't need to labour the point of what I witnessed with this couple never to be. They were side by side, both seeking companionship or love, but they didn't even register each other's existence. Social media is described as a great connecting force, and it can be a wonderful thing. But when we stop noticing people in our immediate surroundings in favour of the swirling masses online, I don't think of it in quite such a warm, fuzzy glow.
This was that conversation that sparked this debate that do we really need technology in a classroom? Do we need to de-escalate? Most importantly, during this speech, he talks about a very specific point that a lot of edtech companies are there now, a lot of softwares are there. There are Google Classrooms, Microsoft Classrooms, and a lot of education aiding tech that's available. Do we need that in the classroom? If we need that, have they gone through randomized trials? Have people really experiment that is this mode of education really effective? And to the astonishment, there is no such thing happening anywhere across the globe. So that needs a lot of attention from people like you, experts from the field of higher education, from schools, and most importantly, the future teenagers. What do they think about it? So let's start this discussion of the 256th episode of the Blub World Web Talks. And let me invite the first speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Professor Piyush Kant Pandey, the Vice Chancellor for Amity University from Raipur, Chhattisgarh. Piyush, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
So, in fact, really, it was very, very nice that wonderful educators are here, policymakers and academic leaders and young learners are all here, and the wonderful host, Daksh, thank to you. And one thing, in fact, I must say that, in fact, the whole discussion which has started, of course, Sweden you have discussed, but we have to understand one thing, that Sweden is one of the most technologically literate nation of the world. And they have decided to revert to the print-based and traditional pedagogy because the digital overdose is there. That's a very important point, and especially that is they have taken, they are trying to do away this distill in the early schooling only. So that brings to the important point that basically, when we consider India, then the digital de-escalation is it a possibility, and the second is it a necessity? Both these are the most important point which I think we need to discuss because that digital platform has done wonders to education also. We all know that the time of corona, had these digital world not had been there, digital tools would not have been there, we would have been on an abysmal darkness would have been there as far as education was concerned. So the very fact that of course we need to think over it, that whether basically we need to retreat from the digital education or we need to reset the digital education. This is a very important point. And therefore, I would like to concentrate on each one of you To discuss, first of all, discuss what is essential for learning. For learning, what is required is the digital tools are helping us to learn properly, or they are creating a problem. Is the faster always better? Because of course digital medium is very fast medium. So the second question is that, is it faster is the better? And third is that digital media provides a lot of stimulation, but it creates problem in the absorption of the knowledge. And in fact, the Sweden, which is trying to do away with this digital world, is because of this particular problem only, that they have found that the young learners are struggling to comprehend, they are struggling to concentrate, and struggling to retrain. This is the problem which the Sweden is facing. So we need to, at this point, pause. We need to rethink, and particularly in Indian conditions, we have to find out that what is the actual situation.
Thank you so much, Piyush. I think some very important points that you made. It's a good start to the conversation that do we really need to retract, go back in time, or we need to reset? How do we, really want to plug it into India when we talk of a democracy like India with a demographic like India, where you have to teach the biggest mass of students? Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Professor Prabhat Ranjan, who's the Vice Chancellor for D.Y. Patil International University, Pune, Maharashtra. Prabhat sir, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
I will take example of my life. When I was doing PhD at the University of California, Berkeley in 1986, I was writing my thesis. I did not use pen and paper. That time also I used computer completely. Now I look at my grandson who's growing in California actually. What we have done, or rather I should say my daughter and son-in-law have done, is that they've restricted his screen time to particular days of the week, like weekend and so on, certain hours. The effect of that is that he gets to do a lot of physical activity. Last year on his birthday, I gave him a book, set of 73 books, Amar Chitrakatha. Not believe that one day he finished half of them and he's gone through all of those stories several times because he has a screen time is limited. So we don't do zero, but there's a control on that. Personally, I also don't put on TV unless there is a special reason to do that. So we do need to manage the screen time. That's very important. I think what happened in Sweden probably was that they had completely done away with the books. They got to complete digital. So now they have tried to reverse that. India, as Piyush was saying, is a country of diversity, both in terms of economic conditions, the reach, and the languages, everything. So digital system provides access to all the students across the country, wherever they are, and this has brought transformation in the sense that they have access to the same information. So definitely I cannot do it. But other point that is what is happening is that children and adults both are getting affected, and we are seeing a lot of ADHD cases, both children affected by ADHD, the concentration levels are very poor, and also adults suffering the same thing. I personally myself suffer, where I could read books for hours. Today I'm not able to read those books because I'm not able to focus, or even to watch a movie. It's a rare thing that I will sit there for 3 hours and do it, unless I have nothing else I can do, like a long flight where I have nothing else I can do. So India has to adopt digital, given the diversity, but in the family, it's very important from family point of view that we need to control the screen time. We need to talk now. What is happening in the families is that the parents are working professionals typically. They find that the student or the child is engaged in the digital system, either watching TV or mobile phone, and so they can do whatever they are doing. That is where the change needs to be brought in, that family members have to understand that they need to spend time with their children, and that can only happen if they get them off the screen. And this is something we need to realize in family members, and it will not happen by government. It's something that each one of us to realize this. So in my university, I'm finding, I think everyone else is also finding that students are not wanting to listen to lectures now. They feel it's too boring. They can get the same notes from elsewhere.
Thank you so much, Prabhat. You're very right when you say that there are increased cases of ADHD. People cannot focus anymore. It's not only with the teenagers, it's not only with the young generation, it's even there with the adults. We have been so superbly stimulated that a book is no more a stimuli. If a content is not, getting into our emotion or is not getting into our psyche, to the end of it, we don't engage with it. It does not entertain us. It does not educate us. People now, even for education, you're very right when you say they don't want to listen to lectures, because the problem is that lecture is too monotonous. They now want a lecture with all the VFX coming in, with all the graphics coming in, because they're accustomed to that kind of content. Let me invite the first school leader for today's topic. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Aleyamma Mathew, the CEO for Greenfield Chennai International School from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. I think as we navigate the complications of technology integration in education, Sweden's move has sparked a global conversation. Now, Sweden has initiated a shift in its educational approach by moving away from extensive use of digital devices in early education. The focus is on early education. And they are not banning all edtech, but a shift is towards a back to basic approach in schools with focus on traditional learning methods, which include use of printed textbook, handwriting practice, and teacher-led instruction. I have a few pointers wherein I would like to stress how taking notes or writing helps the children. When students take notes, it pushes them to be more deliberate about organizing their thoughts and deepen learning and retention of information. Handwriting note compels the students to develop an effective note-taking system and teaches them to process and record facts and information quickly and efficiently, which is a skill that they require in their tertiary education as well as career. Taking note by hand also helps students make important connections, digest and analyze information. Sweden's ban on edtech might seem a radical approach, but it is essential to understand the motivation behind this decision. The decision is influenced by research indicating that digital learning tools may delay the development of fundamental literacy and numeracy. There is a clear scientific evidence showing that digital tools can impair students' learning rather than enhance it. I just want to give two narratives of incident that I happened to witness a couple of days back at my school. We were conducting an admission interaction with the new admission students. And one of the students, when I asked the child, which sport are you engaged in? The child said football and golf. Out of my curiosity, I asked the child, where do you play golf? And the child said, at my home, on my screen. I think this is a reality check for us. The second instance was another child, a 4-year-old child. I asked him, how did you come to school? He said, in a helicopter. My next question to the child was, who drove the helicopter? And he said, I drove the helicopter. Where did you land your helicopter? And he said, on top of the building. Now, these are two narratives which clearly shows what type of openings or what type of openings are being given by parents at home.
Thank you so much, Aleyamma ma'am. The first 3 minutes were over, but we'll try to come back to you. So we'll take some of the important points that you talked about. I think two very strong examples that you gave. One of them that comes out of the creative drive of a student, and the other one where they have, changed their own perception of reality. For them, a physical sport is not at all physical anymore. It's there on the screen. They're playing it there, and they feel that, yes, this is their reality. They're so immersed in the screen that their perception of reality is distorted now. And I think it's very important to take this as a cue, because when you're interacting with students who are not active learners, if their perception is distorted, it's very difficult to teach them anything, because you can never give them the right kind of context. They'll always correlate your content with an absolutely unrelated fantasy that they might have in their brain. Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Minnie Johny, the principal of Yashasvi Vidya Niketan from Bangalore, Karnataka. Minnie, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Gaur. I would like to say that as a principal of a school, I have been working with the small children as well as the teenagers up to 10th standard. So during the COVID time, ours was not a very branded school, but being a CBSE resource person, I got the opportunity to train myself during the Corona period. During that time, I have learned and I made my teachers to give training for them. So what happened, our school did not use any edtech or any tools till that time. And we have found using that technology as well as the traditional teaching learning methods, that is interactive platform, where the projects are given, but at first, I have to tell you that we have got a lot of improvement in the primary group, that is from, we can say, third to fifth standard. But from nursery classes, what happened is the learning experiences, what they get naturally in a classroom. But in digital forms, what was happening, the screen time was more and the children were more interested in that. And we have found that class, the primary students from 3 to 6 had very good change in their teaching learning process. But what we have found is a terrible loss of writing. They were not interested to write. And the small children, they were not at all interested in writing. And we have seen that some of the children, they were socially aloof from the others. So social interaction was less. And we had a lot of problem with our higher class students that everyone might have seen. That is, they unmute and they used to play games because in this VUCA world, what happened is, they were very happy to spend their time. But as a educator and a trainer, I believe that both it is very important that traditional methodology we have to blend with the education technology to have results. See, we should not think that only lecture method is studied. See, now we have lecture come interactive teaching learning methods, project-based learning, and there is a lot of collaboration among the students. And what we find is there is a lot of knowledge other than textbooks because of the use of technology. Only thing, we have to have a control over their screen time. That is what I feel. And we should also, and this will increase definitely the performance level, as well as we can align the learning outcomes along with what type of technology or the methodology we have to use for the particular concept to teach. So I have found that there is a plus as well as a minus in this, and we have to use technology in the form of complement or multivitamins. Not it is a full, what we say, full course meal, that everything. So even we as adults, we are also having the tendency to be involved or engrossed in that.
Thank you so much, Mini ma'am. And I think a very nice analogy that you have given, that let's not serve technology as a 4 or a 5 course meal. Let's make it a novelty. Let's give it in the form of snacks or some biteables at some point of time. Make that, see, we'll have to figure out ways of de-escalating. The biggest challenge that comes at play, who will tell them that de-escalate? Who is the one who will play the devil's advocate? Who is the one who's going to face the wrath from a child that no, you don't get screened anymore? And the parent is absolutely, powerless at this point, because that same parent has been feeding him or her food by showing them that screen that has already corrupted their own understanding of things. So when the parent is powerless, the society does not have control, the school cannot do anything, then who's the one who de-escalates? Let's try to know it from our speakers next. A very warm welcome to Ms. Preeta Abraham, the principal of Vikas Mantra Public School from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Preeta ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh, for giving this opportunity. Everyone has been speaking about what happened in Sweden. So let me bring the Indian narrative to it. In our classrooms, if you look, we would say very proudly, yeah, we are not completely, digitalized in the sense that we still use a very nice, harmonious blend of textbook or learning material, books, and the digital board. But we are fast moving towards it. This fashion is catching up, that let us go all digital, with certain schools in the country using a tablet and everything. But at the end of the day, there are certain universities also who will very proudly say they are paper-free universities. But at the end of the day, when the examination comes, student has to write, and there is where they realize that we are very back in handwriting. So schools like us are really doing our best to make them, improve in their handwriting, reading, etc. I feel that as educators, we need to make a conscious choice over there. We cannot eliminate digital literacy or whatever, because this is how the society is, and it's also an important trait of employability skills. So it cannot be, completely negated or eliminated. But yes, let us have a harmonious blend of all this, the digital, etc., as well as the real handwriting and reading. I think that as educators, we should, promote reading. libraries are the least visited places in the schools and universities. So, what are we going to do as educators to make these children visit the library? Are we going to give them, projects or things which would help, which would make them go into reading, etc.? See, earlier when we were doing, I remember when we were doing, like one of the esteemed panelists suggested, when we were doing, we would visit the Google. There would be a lot of information. We would go through everything, sift, and then create one for us. Now what happens? Everybody goes into Chat GPT, AI, etc., and then you get a thing and you just copy paste. I'm asking, what happens to the analytical skill? What is happening to the critical thinking skill? What is happening? It is maybe we are having our children growing with imagination, but is it creative thinking? Are we kind of able to understand whether it is creative thinking or is it imagination? So what are we doing? Are we trying to make out, are we going to sit down and lament that digital thing is coming up, or are we as educators going to change our mode of teaching in the classroom, our mode of giving projects and assignments, where we are going to give them more reading assignments and then accordingly present their views? Are we going to check on plagiarism content and then accordingly prepare them to actually come out with their views? This is very, very important. How are we going to raise their analytical skill, their creative thinking, their critical thinking? Because we can't eliminate digital thing. It is a part of life, and employability skill very important. Tomorrow, if they are going to be in a workplace, they need to have this skill.
Thank you so much, Preeta ma'am. And some very important points that you made, that somebody somewhere has to pull the plug. We'll have to send them back to a library. We'll have to figure out a way of changing this whole conversation, that finding a way to de-escalate. This is the biggest challenge when we have this conversation. A government can ban edtech and then it becomes enforceable. But what happens to homes where that screen is never away from a child? What happens to a classroom where we want paper-free institutions, but we have to give that examination on that piece of paper? And do we think writing just as a skill or a method of grasping, understanding, critical thinking, dividing facts, building your own wisdom, is that really being missed? Because that wisdom that we're developing right now is only of Chat GPT. By feeding all the content that we have, all our reasoning that we have, we are just training that language model. We are not training ourselves so that they give better responses in the future. A very warm welcome to Mr. Shivansh Singhal, who's a grade 9 student from Aralcon Public School, Delhi. He's also an influencer at the 4th WLT in Parliament. Shivansh, over to you for the next 3 minutes, and a very warm welcome.
Namaste. My name is Shivansh Singhal. I am currently the influencer at 4th WLT in Parliament. I am from Algon Public School, Mayur Vihar. Today, I want to spark a conversation about a bold experiment that's unfolding in Sweden. The country has taken a daring step by banning edtech in its school, leaving many of us wondering, is digital de-escalation realistic? On one side of the debate, we have those who argue that technology has hijacked our classrooms. They claim that screens are distracting, social media is addictive, and the constant ping of notification is eroding our attention span. By banning EdTech, Sweden aims to reclaim the learning environment and foster deep engagement, creativity, and critical thinking. On the other side, we have those who see EdTech as a game changer. They argue that technology has the power to personalize learning, increase accessibility, and prepare students for a rapidly changing world. By embracing EdTech, we can unlock new possibilities, bridge the gaps, and create a more inclusive education system. Sweden's ban is not about abandoning technology entirely, but about finding a balance that mainly focuses on human interaction, creativity, and critical thinking. It's about recognizing the limitation of edtech and leveraging its potential to augment, not replace the learning experience. But here's the catch. Implementing such a ban won't be easy for Sweden. It requires significant investments in teacher training, curriculum development, and infrastructure. It demands a shift in mindset from seeing technology as a solution to recognizing its limitation and potential pitfalls. As we weigh the pros and cons, let's not forget the global context. EdTech is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and many countries are betting big on digital education. So, friends, can digital de-escalation really work? The answer lies in finding a balance that works for each unique context.
So thank you so much, Shivansh. Let me invite the next teenager for their opinion on this. A very warm welcome to Mr. Vansh Sherawat, who is a grade 9 student from Ved Vyasa DAV Public School, New Delhi. Vansh, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Today, I, Vansh Sherawat, an influencer of the World Teen Parliament, am going to speak on the topic Sweden bans EdTech. Is digital de-escalation real? No, I do not support this to an extent. We know it has helped us in unprecedented times like COVID-19. The digitalization of education in those years helped us to study, even in such difficult times. Almost 90% of old education has been restored back. The 10% new and technological education is playing the most crucial part in a student's life. We are attending this meeting. This screen time, it, it is the screen time, but this knowledge can't be, we can't get it from schools. It is a part of our lives. The screen time is not being affected after so much awareness and restrictions. A child is watching mobile phones and TV when he is not studying online. EdTech has left a huge impact on children's mindset. They understand the topic more effectively in a lesser time with lesser resources. A student can watch it in online freemium model or even on platforms like YouTube. In developing countries, this model is the need of the hour, where people are having less income. They cannot afford a huge piece of schools, or if they can afford, if they are given the free education by school, they need extra classes or tuitions. That is available in online sources. But if they are removed, poorer sections of society would be deprived of basic education. It is better to balance your online studies and school studies. Follow 20-20-20 rule, taking a 20-second break every 20 minutes to look something 20 feet away. This is a boon for many, but bane for some. We have to keep everybody's interest in mind. So continuing with current type of studies would be a good option, and completely banning is not a solution to this. Swedish government is thinking about Sweden individually, but not for the world. They know the problems in Sweden, but if you have to examine the world's betterment as a whole, big family is the motive of World Teen Parliament.
Thank you so much, Vansh, for this opinion on the topic. And I think it's very important, a very important question that you posed. I would like to pose it to all the speakers now, whoever wants to answer this question, that is digital de-escalation something that can only be feasible for developed countries? Is it also needed for a developed country? What do the higher education experts think on it? And do you think a university will be able to pull the plug on the screen time? A school will be able to do it, or a parent will be able to do it? Let me have some opinion from Prabhat sir and then from Piyush sir, that who will have the power to really pull the plug on the screen?
I think it's start from home only. Once you don't do this in home, very difficult to do this in school or in the university. So they get used to that, and they think it's their right. No, why should they be taken away? Even sometimes I will found students having a mobile phone, they take the screenshot of the question paper, convert it text, feed it to ChatGPT, and just copy that into your. So it has to start from home. Good practices have to start from home. Otherwise, too late.
Power really lies with the parent. They will have to figure out ways of engaging with children. They'll have to devote time. Only then they'll be able to pull the plug. But what would be the university's contribution to this? Can universities become the center for evaluating the edtech products? Can they become the third party for the randomized testing? What does Piyush have to say on this?
In fact, one bigger malice I think we are overlooking. You know, Sweden is example we are discussing, but one bigger malice we are all overlooking is that, you know, I was hearing our young students also, and let me tell you very frank, I'm very candid with them. You know, I may be hurting some of them. I was, you know, I was feeling as if I was hearing a written. I mean, something when you ask our computer to read it out. So I was feeling as if something was being read out. It was not coming from the heart. It was not coming from the thinking. And that's one of the biggest problem which we are all overlooking. No, digitalization is one thing. Digitalization is nothing wrong with that. But the problem arises when the use of this digitalization is being done in a wrong manner.
I think a very important point that the skill to think, to deconstruct a topic, build your opinion around it, have some facts put into it, and then finally be able to articulate it is, it's abysmal right now. You can see that most of the people rely absolutely on chat GPT content. Even if they take the effort of writing it down, they'll have to work a lot on their personalities, because this whole process of thinking to articulation has to happen organically. It should not take so much of effort. We are all humans. We all learned this way. If you look at the Gurukul system back, long back, in even in India, there was no paper and pen even. It was 100% verbal. The teacher used to speak out a shloka, the student was supposed to repeat and then remember it the next day, do manan on that shloka for the whole day that he or she had with them, and then bring a new kind of a thought or a perception to that same statement that came out of a book somewhere. Aleyamma ma'am, you were muted in the beginning. If you want to add some points to the conversation, over to you.
I just want to add something to what Dr. Pandey had said. Now, we see kids these days are slave of unhealthy habits. And personally, when I see from the school perspective, I very strongly believe that unhealthy habits are introduced unknowingly by the parent. Let's take a simple example of, having a screen time during meals. Now, we know that when a child is mindlessly eating, it is not going to nourish his body. Secondly, the parents are not thinking, how does this constant screen time affect their eyesight and their brain development? Thirdly, how does technology shape their thinking and behavior? Now, this example that I gave may be a very small time example, but definitely it has got a long-term impact or long-term consequences. As an educator, I feel, we need to have a hybrid learning mode, a middle path, wherein technology can be a value tool, but it is important for us to teach how children must use it in moderation while preserving the foundational skills that are required.
You're very right that a small little act of having a screen when they consume their food changes their habits, their understanding of things, their way of dealing with the world, because all their patience is consumed by that video. And when a parent wants to talk to them, they reach a level where their patience has vanished. They don't want to have a conversation. And if their video got interrupted in between, they want to get back to that screen. So it behaviorally changes them forever. We are now going to have a completely different breed of humans who believes far more on technology or results that an AI tool might show them, rather than an adult giving them some advice at any point of time in their life. Do we really want wisdom to now be defined by language models, or do we really have some language models or models within humans that we can give to the next generation? This is the real question that comes at play. It's not about digital de-escalation. It's about human escalation. Can we bring in more conversations? Can we bring in more communication? Can we make them finally rely back on humans than be super reliant on technology? So let's find out ways to reduce this friction, and let's find out, do we need tech in the classroom or do we need tech outside? Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 256th episode. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this session. Thank you.